Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked through the massive doors of the Galactic Council building. Her small human shuttle looked tiny next to the huge alien ships outside. The building was made of crystal that reached high into the sky. It was beautiful, but also made her feel very small. Elena had been Earth's representative for 3 years now. Every day she came to this place where the most powerful alien races in the galaxy made decisions. They decided which planets could be colonized, who could trade with whom, and which species deserved respect. Humans were not one of those respected species. Elena walked past groups of aliens talking in their strange languages. The Zephyrians looked like giant insects with 4 eyes and sharp teeth. They had been traveling between stars for millions of years. The Kavari were tall and thin with blue skin that glowed softly. They controlled energy like humans controlled fire. The Thraxians were small, but their technology was so advanced that one of their ships could destroy an entire planet. All of these aliens looked at humans the same way. They saw them as children who had just learned to walk. Humans were useful for dangerous jobs that the older races did not want to do. Mining asteroids in deadly radiation fields, building colonies on planets with poisonous air, fighting wars that the council members thought were beneath them. Elena had learned to smile when they insulted her people. She had learned to say thank you when they gave humans the worst jobs. She had learned to act grateful when they treated Earth like a servant instead of an equal member. But she had also learned other things, much more important things. She knew that the Zephyrians were afraid of getting sick because their biology was very complex. She knew that the Kavari needed special crystals to power their technology, and those crystals only came from 3 planets. She knew that the Thraxians were so smart that they had trouble working together because they all thought they were right. Elena knew these things because humans were very good at watching and learning. While the aliens saw stupid primitives, Elena saw weaknesses. Today was going to be different. Today, Elena would stop pretending to be grateful. She entered the main council chamber. It was a huge round room with seats arranged in circles. The most important aliens sat in the center on floating platforms. The less important ones sat further out. Humans sat in the very back, almost outside the room. Elena took her simple metal chair. Around her, aliens sat on thrones made of living crystal, floating energy fields, and machines that looked like art. The message was clear. Humans did not belong here. The Zephyrian Empress stood up. Her name was something that humans could not pronounce, so Elena just called her Your Majesty when she had to speak to her. The Empress was old, even by Zephyrian standards. She had been alive when humans were still living in caves. Today, we discuss the human problem, the Empress said. Her voice was translated into hundreds of languages by machines floating in the air. The humans have been expanding too quickly. They have claimed 12 star systems in the past year. Elena felt anger rise in her chest, but kept her face calm. Those 12 systems had been declared worthless by the Council. The planets were too hot, too cold, too radioactive, or too dangerous for most aliens to live on. But humans had figured out how to survive there. They had built cities and farms and mining stations. Now that humans had made those worlds valuable, suddenly the Council cared about them. The humans must be controlled, said a Kavari leader. His blue skin flashed brighter when he was angry. They breed too fast and spread like a disease. Other aliens made sounds of agreement. Elena heard words like primitive, dangerous, and uncontrolled, repeated over and over. The Empress continued speaking. The Council has decided that humans will give up all military ships. The Kavari hegemony will take control of human space for protection. Humans will be allowed to keep their colonies, but only under proper supervision. Elena knew this was coming. Human intelligence had been watching Council communications for months. They knew the aliens were planning to take control of human space. The excuse was always the same. Humans were too dangerous to be left alone, but Elena also knew something the aliens did not. Humans had been preparing for this day for 3 years. Ambassador Vasquez, the Empress said, looking down at Elena like she was looking at an insect. You will sign the agreement for your species. Elena stood up slowly. She could feel thousands of alien eyes watching her. Some looked curious, most looked bored. They expected her to argue a little bit and then give in like humans always did. Elena reached into her diplomatic bag. The aliens expected her to pull out the signed papers agreeing to their demands. Instead, she pulled out a small crystal data storage device. Your Majesty, Elena said in a clear voice that carried across the huge chamber, I have brought humanity's official response to your proposal. She walked to the center of the room where a computer system was built into the floor. This computer could display information for all the aliens to see at once. Elena placed her crystal into the machine. The room went quiet. Even the floating translation machine stopped humming. A three-dimensional map appeared in the air above the chamber. It showed the entire galaxy with all the council worlds marked in different colors. Trade routes appeared as flowing lines of light. Military bases were marked with special symbols, but there were new marks on the map, red dots that the aliens had never seen before, hundreds of them, thousands of them. Elena looked around the chamber and saw confusion on alien faces. The red dots were everywhere, around council worlds, along trade routes, near military bases. Some were even inside the council building itself. For 3 years, Elena said, her voice now carrying a tone that the aliens had never heard from a human before. You have believed that you were tolerating an inferior species. She paused and looked directly at the Empress. You were wrong. You were being studied. The red dots on the map began to pulse. Each one represented a human observation post, a hidden base, or an agent working in secret. While the Council had been watching humanity's obvious expansion into those 12-star systems, humans had been quietly placing people and equipment throughout the entire galaxy. Elena saw the exact moment when the aliens realized what they were looking at. The Zephyrian military commander's shell turned dark with fear. The Kavari leaders began flashing rapidly in distress. Even the calm Thoraxians started moving nervously in their seats. The Council's proposal is rejected, Elena announced. Furthermore, as of this moment, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council. The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens began shouting in dozens of languages. Some stood up and pointed at Elena. Others activated personal shields or called for security, but Elena was not finished. Humanity also declares war on the Kavari hegemony for their unprovoked attacks on human colonies in the Kepler 442 system last month. This caused even more chaos. The Kavari had thought their attack was secret. They had used unmarked ships to destroy a human research station and blamed it on pirates. Elena raised her voice over the noise. Any species that helps the Kavari will be considered an enemy of humanity. We suggest you choose your friends carefully. Security forces began moving toward Elena, but she held up her hand. I would not recommend that, she said calmly. The human fleet is already here. As if she had given a signal, alarms began sounding throughout the council station. The lights flickered. Gravity systems began failing in some areas. Most importantly, all communication with the outside stopped working. Elena smiled for the first time in 3 years. It was not a diplomatic smile. It was the smile of a predator that had finally stopped hiding. Security guards rushed toward Elena from all directions. They were big aliens with thick armor and energy weapons. Elena did not move from where she stood next to the computer display. Stop right there, she said in the same calm voice. Look, around you. The guards stopped when they noticed what was happening to the council building. The lights were dimming and brightening randomly. The artificial gravity was failing in sections, making some aliens float helplessly in the air. The air filtration systems were making strange noises. Most importantly, all the communication systems were dead. No one could call for help or send messages outside the building. How is this possible? Demanded the Zephyrian Empress. Her 4 eyes were wide with shock. Elena gestured to the holographic map still floating above them. The red dots were now blinking in patterns. Every supply delivery to this station for the past 6 months contained more than just food and equipment. Humans have a talent for making very small machines. The aliens looked confused. Elena explained in simple terms that even the proudest council members could understand. Nanobots, microscopic robots smaller than dust particles. They have been spreading through your air systems, your computers, and your equipment for months. Right now, they are taking control of everything that keeps this station running. A Kavari technician was frantically pushing buttons on his control panel. Nothing responds. The station systems are locked out. Elena nodded. The nanobots were programmed to activate when I placed my data crystal in your central computer. They are not designed to hurt anyone, just to make sure you listen to what I have to say. She walked slowly around the chamber while aliens watched her with growing fear and respect. For 3 years, they had seen her as a weak human who smiled and agreed with everything they said. Now they were seeing something completely different. You made assumptions about humans, Elena continued. You saw our wars and called us violent. You saw our emotions and called us unstable. You saw our short lives and called us unimportant. The holographic display changed to show human ships moving through space. But these were not the simple metal vessels that the Council was used to seeing. These ships were works of art and engineering that made the aliens stare in wonder. But you never understood what those things actually mean, Elena said. Our violence taught us strategy. Our emotions make us loyal to each other. Our short lives make us impatient with stupidity. The human ships on display were like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. They had the organic curves of Zephyrian bioships, but with the clean lines of human engineering. They glowed with Kavari energy technology, but powered by human fusion reactors that were smaller and more efficient. They moved with the impossible grace of Thraxian quantum drives, but modified with human improvements. This is impossible, whispered a Thraxian scientist. How did you integrate so many different technologies? Elena smiled. Because humans do not suffer from the pride that limits your thinking. When we see something better than what we have, we learn it. When we learn it, we improve it. When we improve it, we make it our own. She pointed to specific ships on the display. That cruiser uses Zephyrian bioarmor that can heal itself when damaged, but we made it stronger by adding carbon fiber reinforcement. That destroyer has Kavari energy shields, but we powered them with fusion cores that last 10 times, longer than your crystal batteries. The aliens were beginning to understand the scope of what they were seeing. For decades, they had traded technology with humans, thinking they were helping a primitive species catch up. They had never imagined that humans were taking their best ideas and making them better. Every diplomat you sent to Earth was studied, Elena continued. Every trade agreement gave us access to new technology. Every cultural exchange taught us more about your weaknesses. She turned to face the Kavari delegation directly. You thought your bio-neural networks could not be hacked by primitive human computers. You never considered that we would create biological viruses designed specifically for your systems. The Kavari leader's blue skin began flashing rapidly in alarm. You would not dare attack Kavari space. Elena's expression grew cold. 3 hours ago, every Kavari military vessel lost main power. Your crews are alive, but your ships are dead. In space, your homeworlds are experiencing systematic failures of their defense networks. Your quantum communication arrays have been severed. The holographic display zoomed in to show Kavari space. Hundreds of their ships hung motionless in the void. Their massive space stations were dark except for emergency lighting. Their proud military fleet, which had terrorized smaller species for centuries, was completely helpless. This is an act of war, shouted the Kavari leader. No, Elena replied. This is a response to your act of war. You attacked our research station in Kepler 442 and killed 300 human scientists. You thought we would not notice because you used unmarked ships. You were wrong. She gestured to the display again. Now it showed human ships moving through Kavari space with perfect coordination. But instead of destroying the helpless alien vessels, the human ships were moving alongside them. We could have destroyed every Kavari ship and space station, Elena said. Instead, we chose to capture them. Your crews will be treated well according to human standards for prisoners of war. Your ships will be studied and your technology will be added to ours. The Zephyrian Empress found her voice. The Council will not stand for this aggression. Elena looked around the chamber at the floating, confused aliens and the malfunctioning systems. What Council? You cannot even control your own meeting room. You cannot communicate with your fleets. You cannot send warnings to your homeworlds. She walked back to the center of the chamber. For 3 years, I have sat in the back of this room and listened to you debate which species deserved respect. You gave respect based on age, technology, and military power. Today, I am here to tell you that the rules have changed. The display showed more human ships appearing throughout the galaxy. They were not attacking anyone else, but their presence was unmistakable. Humans had gone from having a few dozen ships to having thousands, and they were positioned in every major system. Humanity is withdrawing from the Galactic Council, Elena announced. But we are not withdrawing from the galaxy. We are taking our place as an independent power. A small Thoraxian stood up. Unlike the others, he did not look afraid. He looked curious. What do you want from us? Elena's expression softened slightly. The Thoraxians had always been more fair to humans than the other species. We want what every species wants: respect, fair treatment, the right to exist without being told we are inferior. She looked around the chamber. Species that can offer those things will find humans to be good neighbors and strong allies. Species that cannot... She gestured to the Kavari delegation, who were now huddled together in fear. The Kavari chose to solve their problems with violence, Elena said. So we gave them a war. But we gave them the kind of war that humans excel at. The kind where the battle is over before the enemy realizes it has begun. The nanobots in the station's systems suddenly restored normal lighting and gravity. The aliens who had been floating crashed back into their seats. Communication systems came back online with a soft chime. You are free to contact your governments, Elena said. Tell them what you have seen here today. Tell them that humanity is no longer asking for permission to exist. She began walking toward the exit, but stopped and turned back. And tell them that humans have very good memories. We remember every insult, every unfair trade deal, and every time you treated us like servants. Some of those debts will be forgiven if you choose to treat us as equals going forward. Elena paused at the door. But some debts will be collected in full. As she left the chamber, the aliens sat in stunned silence, finally beginning to understand that the galaxy had just changed forever. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the human warship UES Tenacity and watched the Kavari fleet hanging motionless in space. 50 massive Kavari dreadnoughts, each one a kilometer long and armed with enough firepower to destroy a planet, were now as helpless as floating metal. Their crews were still alive, but their ships would not respond to any commands. Status report, Chen said to her tactical officer. All Kavari vessels are secured, Admiral. Their weapon systems are offline, engines are dead, and their communication. Arrays are jammed. No casualties reported on either side. Chen nodded with satisfaction. This was exactly how a human war should be fought. Quick, efficient, and with minimal loss of life. The Kavari had expected a long, bloody conflict where both sides would lose thousands of ships and millions of lives. Instead, the war was over in less than 6 hours. Begin boarding operations, Chen ordered. Full protocol. Treat the prisoners with respect, but make sure they understand they have been defeated. Around her, the bridge crew worked with calm precision. These men and women had trained for this moment for 3 years. Every simulation, every exercise, every late night studying alien technology had prepared them for today. Chen walked to the main display screen and activated a communication link to Elena, who was still in the council chambers. Elena's face appeared on the screen, looking calm despite the chaos happening around her. "The Kavari fleet is secured," Chen reported. "No resistance. Their crews seem to be in shock." Elena smiled. "Good. What about their homeworlds?" Phase 2 is proceeding on schedule. All major Kavari installations are experiencing system failures. Their planetary defense networks are down. Their quantum communication hubs are offline. Their government cannot coordinate any response. Chen felt a moment of pride as she spoke. The operation had taken 3 years to plan and had required the cooperation of thousands of human agents working throughout the galaxy. Every human trader, diplomat, scientist, and worker had played a part. "The beauty of it," Chen continued, "is that we use their own technology against them. The Kavari were so proud of their bio-neural networks that they never considered someone might create a virus specifically designed to attack them." Elena's expression grew more serious. "What about civilian casualties?" "None," Chen replied immediately. "Our nanobots only targeted military and government systems. Civilian areas are unaffected. Food distribution, medical facilities, and public transportation are all functioning normally." This had been one of humanity's most important decisions. They could have caused massive civilian suffering by targeting power plants, water treatment facilities, and hospitals. Instead, they had chosen to fight only the Kavari military and government. "The Kavari people will remember that we could have killed millions, but chose not to," Elena said. "That message will be just as important as our military victory." Chen agreed. Humans had learned from studying Earth's history that the way you won a war was almost as important as winning it. If you wanted a lasting peace, you had to show strength without becoming a monster. "Admiral," her communications officer called out, "we are receiving surrender requests from 17 Kavari commanders. They are asking for terms." "Tell them we will accept their surrender," Chen replied. "Their crews will be treated as prisoners of war according to human military law. Their ships will be impounded but not destroyed. We will discuss terms for their return to civilian life once the war is officially over." She turned back to Elena's image on the screen. "How are things going on your end?" Elena looked around the council chamber where aliens were frantically trying to contact their governments. "About as expected. The Zephyrians are demanding to know how we penetrated their security. The Thoraxians are asking technical questions about our nanobots. The smaller species are trying to figure out which side they should support." "Any threats?" "Several. But no one is stupid enough to actually attack us while we are demonstrating what happens to species that make us angry." Chen understood. The other council races were seeing what humans could do when they stopped pretending to be weak. The Kavari had been one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy, and humans had defeated them without firing a single shot in a traditional space battle. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported, "long-range sensors are detecting movement. From the Zephyrian Empire, 3 fleets are changing course toward our position." Chen felt her heart rate increase slightly, but her voice remained calm. "Numbers and estimated arrival time? Approximately 200 ships total. They will reach us in 18 hours if they maintain current speed." Elena overheard the report through the communication link. "The Zephyrians are testing us," she said. "They want to see if our victory over the Kavari was luck or if we are actually as dangerous as we appear." "What are your orders?" Chen asked. Elena was quiet for a moment, thinking. The next few hours would determine whether humanity would be respected as a new galactic power or whether they would face a coalition of angry alien races trying to destroy them before they became too strong. "Do not fire unless fired upon," Elena finally said. but make sure they understand the consequences of attacking us." Chen smiled. "I have some ideas about that." She turned to her crew. "Activate the demonstration protocol. Show our guests what human engineering can really do." The human fleet began to change formation. Ships that had looked like simple metal vessels suddenly began transforming. Hull plates slid apart to reveal hidden weapon systems. Energy shields flared to life with power levels that made the surrounding space shimmer. Engines that had seemed ordinary began glowing with the light of captured stars. But the most impressive change was in the ships themselves. They began to separate and recombine in ways that should have been impossible. Individual ships linked together to form larger vessels. Weapon platforms detached from main hulls and began moving independently. Supply ships opened to reveal that they were actually carriers holding dozens of smaller attack craft. "My God," whispered Chen's tactical officer. "We look like we just tripled our fleet size." "That's the idea," Chen replied. "The Zephyrians think they know what human ships can do because they have seen our merchant vessels and our early military designs. They have never seen what we built in secret." Elena's voice came through the communication link. "Are you ready for Phase 3? Chen looked at her displays showing human ships throughout the galaxy. In the past 6 hours, they had revealed themselves to be far more numerous and far more advanced than anyone had suspected. The Kavari fleet was captured. Kavari homeworlds were under human control. And now a Zephyrian fleet was approaching to test human resolve. "We are ready," Chen confirmed. "Then let's show the galaxy what happens when humans stop playing nice." Chen activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen. The Zephyrian Empire has decided to test our commitment to defending ourselves. We will give them a demonstration they will never forget." She paused, thinking about all the years of preparation that had led to this moment. "Remember, we are not just fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for every species that has been bullied by the council races. We are fighting for the right of younger civilizations to exist without asking permission from older ones." Chen looked out at the stars and thought about Earth, so far away but now protected by the most advanced fleet in the galaxy. Today we stop being the galaxy's servants. Today we become its teachers. The Zephyrian fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the star system where the human and Kavari fleets waited. Admiral Chen watched on her screens as 200 of the most advanced bio-ships in the galaxy arranged themselves. In attack formation, the Zephyrians had ruled space for millions of years. Their ships were grown rather than built, living creatures the size of cities that could heal from damage and adapt to new threats. Each ship was unique, shaped by centuries of evolution and genetic engineering. "Incoming communication from the Zephyrian flagship," reported Chen's communications officer. "Put it through." The main screen filled with the image of General Krextar, one of the most feared military commanders in the galaxy. His insect-like face was covered with battle scars, and his 4 eyes glowed with predatory intelligence. "Human Admiral," Krextar spoke in the clicking language of his people, translated by the ship's computer. "You have committed an act of war against a council member. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." Chen looked at the alien general with the same calm expression she had worn throughout the day. "General Krextar, you are entering a combat zone where humans are conducting lawful military operations against the Kavari hegemony. You have 30 minutes to withdraw before we consider your presence an act of aggression." Krextar's mandibles clicked in what Chen knew was laughter. "You are outnumbered 10 to 1, human. Your primitive ships cannot stand against Zephyrian biotechnology." "You are welcome to test that theory," Chen replied. "But I should warn you that the Kavari fleet thought the same thing 6 hours ago." She gestured to where the captured Kavari ships hung motionless in space. "As you can see, they were mistaken." Krextar's eyes narrowed as he studied the Kavari vessels. "You used some kind of weapon we have not seen before. It will not work against our ships." Our bio-neural networks are completely different from Kavari. Technology. Chen smiled. You are absolutely correct, General. What worked against the Kavari will not work against you. She paused for effect. We have something different planned for the Zephyrians. Before Krextar could respond, Chen cut the communication. She turned to her tactical officer. Begin Phase 4. Activate the biological warfare protocols. Biological warfare protocols activated, the officer confirmed. All ships are releasing payload. From the human fleet, invisible clouds began spreading through space. To any observer, nothing appeared to be happening. The humans were not firing weapons or launching missiles. They were simply sitting in formation while the Zephyrian fleet approached. Krextar apparently decided that the humans were bluffing. His fleet began moving forward, their bioships flowing through space with organic grace. Weapon ports opened, along their hulls like blooming flowers, revealing energy cannons and projectile launchers. 15 minutes until they reach firing range, reported Chen's tactical officer. Let me know when they start experiencing problems, Chen replied calmly. She did not have to wait long. Within 10 minutes, alarms began sounding on the Zephyrian ships. The humans intercepted their communications and listened as confusion turned to panic. Hull Section 7 is not responding to neural commands. The bio-armor is rejecting our control signals. Something is wrong with the ship's nervous system, Chen watched as the elegant Zephyrian fleet began to lose formation. Ships that had moved with perfect coordination started drifting randomly through space. Some began spinning uncontrollably. Others simply stopped moving altogether. General Krextar is requesting emergency communication, reported the communications officer. Put him through. Krextar's face appeared on screen again, but now his confident expression had been replaced by fear and rage. What have you done to our ships? Chen's voice remained perfectly calm. We introduced a modified virus into your local space environment. It attacks the bio-neural networks that control your ships. Unlike the nanobots we used against the Kavari, this virus was specifically designed for Zephyrian biology. That is impossible. Our biosecurity systems can stop any known virus. Yes, they can stop any known virus, Chen agreed. But this virus was created by combining human genetic engineering with samples of Zephyrian biology that we obtained during 3 years of diplomatic contact. Your immune systems do not recognize it as a threat until it is too late. She gestured to her tactical display, which showed the Zephyrian fleet in complete disarray. Your ships are not dying, General. They are simply refusing to obey you. The virus makes them think that your crew members are foreign invaders who need to be rejected. This was exactly what was happening. The living ships were treating their own crews like infections, sealing off sections and cutting off life support to areas where Zephyrians were present. The crews were not in immediate danger, but they could no longer control their vessels. You are forcing us to abandon our ships, Krextar protested. Yes, Chen replied. And you have 15 minutes to do so before we begin capturing your fleet the same way we captured the Kavari vessels. Human ships were already moving toward the disabled Zephyrian vessels. Unlike the Kavari ships, which had simply lost power, the Zephyrian bioships were actively trying to expel their crews. Escape pods were launching automatically as the ship's nervous systems rejected their passengers. This is a war crime, Krextar shouted. You are using biological weapons. Chen's expression grew cold. General, your empire has been using biological weapons for centuries. You have deliberately infected entire planets with diseases that only affect non-Zephyrian species. You have created plagues that wiped out civilizations that refused to surrender to you. She leaned forward in her command chair. The difference is that our biological weapon does not kill anyone. It simply removes your ability to harm others. As the human fleet moved among the disabled Zephyrian ships, Chen continued her explanation. We spent 3 years studying every biological weapon your empire has ever created. We learned how your Scientists target specific genetic markers to create species, specific diseases. Then we used that knowledge to create something that targets your technology instead of your people. The last of the Zephyrian crew members were evacuating their ships. The biovessels, now free of what they perceived as foreign invaders, began to calm down. But they would not accept their original crews back aboard. The virus had permanently altered their recognition systems. Your crews will be picked up and treated as prisoners of war, Chen announced. Your ships will be studied by human scientists, who are very interested in biotechnology. Krextar's image flickered as his command ship lost power. The Empire will send more fleets. You cannot defeat all of us. General, Chen said quietly, look around you. We just defeated the two most powerful military forces in the galaxy in the same day without losing a single ship. Do you really think your Empire wants to find out what else humans have prepared? She gestured to her tactical display, which now showed human ships throughout the galaxy. We have been planning this for 3 years. Every major military force in Council space is experiencing similar problems right now. Your communication networks are down. Your supply lines are disrupted. Your allies cannot coordinate their responses. The truth was even more devastating than Krextar realized. While the attention of the galaxy had been focused on the dramatic confrontations with the Kavari and Zephyrian fleets, human agents had been activating sleeper protocols throughout Council space. Food shipments that had been delivered to military bases months ago were now releasing airborne agents that made alien soldiers too sick to fight. Computer viruses hidden in entertainment programs were crashing military databases. Even the water supplies on some worlds had been treated with chemicals that would cause temporary but severe stomach problems for anyone who drank them. We are not trying to conquer the galaxy, Chen explained. We are trying to teach it a lesson. The age of powerful species bullying weaker ones is over. She stood up from her command chair and walked closer to the screen. Your Empire can choose to accept the new reality, or it can continue fighting and discover just how many other surprises. Humans have prepared. Krextar's image finally cut out as his ship lost all power. Around the battlefield, human vessels moved efficiently between the disabled alien ships, collecting prisoners and securing technology. Chen opened a communication channel to Elena, who was still dealing with the chaos in the council chambers. Both enemy fleets have been neutralized, she reported. 0 human casualties. Alien casualties are limited to minor injuries during ship evacuations. Elena's face appeared on screen, and Chen could see the relief in her expression. Excellent work, Admiral. How are our timetables looking? Chen checked her displays. Phase 5 can begin whenever you are ready. All major council military forces have been neutralized or are dealing with internal problems. The galaxy is ready to listen to what humanity has to say. Elena smiled. Then let's give them something worth hearing. 3 days after Elena's declaration of war, the Kavari hegemony officially surrendered. Their military was captured, their infrastructure was crippled, and their government faced a simple choice: surrender or watch their civilization be completely destroyed. They chose to surrender. Elena stood in the same council chamber where everything had begun, but now the room felt completely different. The aliens who had looked down on her with contempt 3 days ago now watched her with fear and respect. The humans no longer sat in the back of the room. Elena's chair had been moved to the center circle, right next to the seats reserved for the most powerful species. She was no longer a representative begging for scraps. She was a negotiator dictating terms. The terms of Kavari surrender are simple, Elena announced to the assembled council. The hegemony will maintain internal control of their civilian government and domestic affairs. However, all military vessels and installations will be transferred to human control. The Kavari delegation sat in stunned silence. Their leader, a tall, blue-skinned alien named Chancellor Vexron, looked like he had aged 10 years in 3 days. Furthermore, Elena continued, The Kavari will immediately cease all aggressive actions against smaller species. All tribute payments and forced labor agreements are cancelled. The Kavari will provide reparations to every world they have conquered or exploited. She looked directly at Chancellor Vexron. Most importantly, the hegemony will serve as an example to the rest of the galaxy of what happens when humanity is pushed too far. The Zephyrian Empress, her magnificent crystal crown now dimmed with defeat, spoke up. "And what of the other council races? Do you plan to conquer all of us?" Elena turned to face the insect-like ruler. "That depends entirely on your choices. Your Majesty, the age of elder species dictating terms to younger civilizations is over. But humans are not interested in becoming galactic tyrants." She walked to the center of the chamber where the holographic display still showed the galaxy-wide deployment of human forces. With a gesture, she changed the display to show something new, a proposed structure for galactic government. "Humanity offers a new system," Elena announced. "A true confederation where species contribute according to their abilities rather than their age or military power, where newer civilizations are protected rather than exploited, where decisions are made based on fairness rather than fear." The display showed trade routes that would benefit smaller species, protection agreements that would prevent wars of conquest, and research-sharing programs that would help less advanced civilizations develop their technology. "This sounds idealistic," said a Thraxian scientist. "What guarantees do we have that humanity will not become the same kind of oppressor that the Kavari were?" Elena had been expecting this question. It was the most important one she would face, because we remember what it feels like to be underestimated and dismissed, she replied. "We remember what it's like to have our achievements ignored and our potential denied. We remember what it's like to be treated as servants rather than equals." She gestured to the human ships visible on the display. "But more importantly, because we understand that power without accountability leads to corruption. The new confederation will have checks and balances that prevent any single species from dominating the others." The small Thraxian who had spoken to her 3 days ago raised his hand. "What if we refuse to join this confederation?" Elena's expression remained calm, but her voice carried an edge of steel. "Then you are free to continue as independent systems, but you will receive none of the benefits of confederation membership. No protection from aggressors, no access to shared technology, no participation in the new trade networks." She paused to let that sink in. "And if you choose to attack Confederation members or interfere with our operations, you will be treated as hostile powers." The threat was clear without being spoken directly. Species that joined the Confederation would be protected and prosper. Species that remained neutral would be left alone but isolated. Species that chose to be enemies would face the same fate as the Kavari. Chancellor Vexron spoke up from his position among the defeated Kavari delegation. "What you offer sounds reasonable in theory, but how do we know that human promises have any meaning?" Elena smiled sadly. "Chancellor, your species has broken more treaties and promises than any other in galactic history. You have enslaved entire civilizations and called it protection. You have stolen resources and called it taxation. You have committed genocide and called it peacekeeping." She walked over to stand directly in front of the Kavari delegation. "The difference is that humans understand the value of keeping our word. When we make a promise, we keep it. When we make a threat, we follow through." She gestured to the disabled Kavari and Zephyrian fleets visible on the tactical displays. "We promised to defend ourselves if attacked. We kept that promise. We promised that there would be consequences for aggression. We kept that promise too." Elena returned to the center of the chamber. "Now we are promising a better future for the galaxy. Species that join us willingly will find that we keep that promise as well." Over the next several hours, Elena outlined the details of the new confederation. Smaller species would be given representation equal to their larger neighbors. Trade would be regulated to prevent exploitation. Military conflicts would be mediated rather than ignored. Technology would be shared to help less advanced civilizations develop. Most importantly, there would be consequences for species that tried to return to the old ways of doing things. The council races have had millions of years to create a fair and just galactic society, Elena said. Instead, you created a system where the strong prey on the weak and call it natural order. She looked around the chamber at faces that showed a mixture of fear, respect, and grudging admiration. Humanity has existed in space for less than a century. In that time, we have gone from primitive newcomers to a force that can defeat your most powerful militaries. We did this not through superior technology or ancient wisdom, but through hard work, careful planning, and the refusal to accept that things cannot be changed. Elena walked toward the exit, but stopped at the door to deliver her final message. The galaxy now has a choice. You can adapt to the new reality and help build something better than what came before. Or you can resist change and discover that humans are just as good at fighting defensive wars as we are at launching surprise attacks. She looked back one more time at the assembled aliens. But understand this, the age of human submission is over. We will never again ask permission to exist or apologize for our success. We earned our place in the galaxy through strength, intelligence, and determination. Elena paused in the doorway. And we will defend that place against anyone who tries to take it from us. As she left the council chamber, Elena could hear heated discussions breaking out behind her. Some species were arguing for continued resistance. Others were already calculating the benefits of joining the Human Confederation. A few were trying to figure out how to remain neutral without being completely isolated. But Elena was not worried about their debates. Humanity had already won the most important victory. They had proven that they could not be dismissed, conquered, or controlled. 6 months later, 47 species had joined the Human Confederation. 12 others had negotiated neutrality agreements. Only 3 species had chosen to remain hostile, and they found themselves increasingly isolated as their former allies abandoned them. The Kavari hegemony, under human supervision, had become a model for how former oppressors could make amends for their past actions. The Zephyrian Empire had grudgingly joined the Confederation after realizing that resistance would only lead to their complete defeat. Elena now served as the first Director General of the Galactic Confederation, working from a new capital built on a previously uninhabited world that belonged to no single species. The old council building had been converted into a museum dedicated to the failures of the past. As she stood in her office looking out at the ships from dozens of species working together in the orbital shipyards, Elena reflected on how much had changed in such a short time. Humanity had entered the galactic stage as beggars asking for acceptance. They had revealed themselves as predators who had been studying their prey for years. Now they were working to become something better. Teachers, protectors, and guardians of a new kind of civilization. The galaxy would never again underestimate a species simply because it was young or different. The age of human diplomacy, backed by unquestionable strength, had begun, and it would reshape the stars themselves.